Hey friends, this is lesson 9, Evergreen Trees. There are two different types of tree, evergreens and deciduous. Deciduous means the leaves fall off. Evergreen, the leaves stay on and they stay green the whole year round. The trees in this picture are all evergreen trees. Evergreen trees are similar in some ways to deciduous trees that we learned about yesterday, but there are also several differences. We use the word evergreen to describe plants that stay leafy and green all year round. Evergreen come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but they all have one thing in common. They are always green. Are there any evergreen trees like these near your house? Perhaps your family or people in your neighborhood decorate evergreen trees at Christmas or other holidays. People decorate evergreen trees because they're the most colorful thing in nature during winter months in many parts of our country. One type of evergreen tree people often choose is called a pine tree. Pine trees have a nice smell, which many people like to have in their homes during the winter months. The leaves of the evergreen trees are called needles. This picture shows the needles of a pine tree. Pine trees are very common throughout the world. Wherever you find pine trees, you are likely to find lots of sharp brown pine needles covering the ground. Evergreen trees, like deciduous trees, make food through photosynthesis, which occurs in the tiny needle leaves. Photosynthesis slows down during winter in evergreen trees, but doesn't stop altogether. Because the needles are much smaller than the leaves of the other trees, it's easier for an evergreen tree to make enough food to keep most of its leaves alive and on the tree all year long. Evergreen trees do lose their needles and grow new ones, but not all at once like deciduous trees. Whenever you find pine trees or other types of evergreen trees, you're also likely to find these things scattered on the ground. If you look up while standing under an evergreen tree, you might see some of these growing on the tree's branches. Do you know what these are called? Most evergreen trees are called conifers. Conifers make cones. The cones in this picture are called pine cones. Unlike deciduous trees, conifer trees do not have flowers and they do not have fruit. Instead, the seeds grow inside their cones like the pine cones. When a cone opens on the ground, the seeds fall out and are spread around by the winds. The first plants you will notice in this picture are called ferns, which are not evergreen trees. So this one right here, ferns. Ferns are short plants that grow in the woods. If you have a sharp eye, though, you can see another type of plant in this picture. Do you see it? This is a little baby sapling, a baby tree, pushing its way through the ferns. If the sapling is tough, as many pine trees are, it will continue growing until it stands high above the ferns. It may grow big enough to produce its own pine cones one day. Here's something very interesting you might not know about trees. Each year, a tree adds a new layer of wood. This new layer forms what is called a growth ring. When you cut down a tree, you can see the growth rings. You can tell exactly how old a tree is by counting the rings. This tree was a little more than 50 years old, which is actually pretty young for a tree. If it hadn't been cut down, this tree might have lived to have 100 or more growth rings. Remember, evergreen trees and deciduous trees are the two main types of trees found in the world, and both are very important to people and nature. Next time you see a tree, try to figure out whether it is an evergreen or a deciduous tree. The leaves may give you your first clue. All right, so we've learned about deciduous trees and evergreen trees.